$82 billion. That is what Marvel's cinematic universe is worth today. Over 30 blockbuster films, billions of fans across 190 countries, and a deal with Disney that changed Hollywood forever. But here is the number nobody talks about: zero. Because in 1996, Marvel had nothing. No money, no movies, no future. They had filed for bankruptcy, one of the most embarrassing corporate collapses in entertainment history. B-roll, old newspaper headlines, Marvel files for bankruptcy. And to survive, they sold off their most valuable characters, Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, for prices so low, it hurts to say them out loud. So how does a broke, humiliated comic book company go from bankruptcy court to buying back its own legacy, to becoming the most powerful studio in Hollywood history? That is what we are finding out today. The golden age. Let's go back to where this story actually starts. 1961. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby create the Fantastic Four. 1 year later, Spider-Man, then the Hulk, then the X-Men. In just a few years, Marvel builds an entire universe of characters that no one had ever seen before. These were not perfect heroes. They were flawed, broken, relatable, and the world went absolutely crazy for them. By the 1980s, Marvel Comics is the best-selling comic book publisher on the planet. Billions of dollars in licensing, cartoons, merchandise. The brand is everywhere. But here is what no one was paying attention to. The people running the business had no idea what they were actually sitting on. In 1985, Marvel's parent company sells 50% of Spider-Man's licensing rights for just $5,000. Not $5 million, $5,000. That single decision will cost them more money than they can imagine. But that mistake, that is just the beginning. The fall, the early 1990s. A businessman named Ron Perelman buys Marvel for $82.5 million. And right away, he sees it not as a creative powerhouse, but as a money machine to be squeezed. He takes Marvel public, floods the market with comic books, collectibles, trading cards. For a moment, it works. Marvel stock goes through the roof. Revenue is exploding. Everyone thinks Perelman is a genius. Then the market collapses. The comic book bubble bursts. Retailers go bankrupt. Millions of unsold books sit in warehouses. And Perelman, instead of pulling back, doubles down, buying more companies, loading Marvel with debt it cannot possibly repay. Here is something I want you to think about, because I genuinely want to hear your answer. If you were running Marvel in 1993, surrounded by short-term profits and pressure from Wall Street, would you have pumped the brakes? Or would you have done exactly what Perelman did? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I read every single one. By 1996, it is over. Marvel files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company that created Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, the characters that would one day generate tens of billions of dollars, cannot pay its bills. Creditors are circling. The board is fighting in court. And the characters, they need to be sold, fast. Sony picks up Spider-Man for $7 million. Fox gets the X-Men. Fox also takes the Fantastic Four. In a matter of months, Marvel's greatest heroes, the crown jewels of the entire universe, are gone, handed to rivals for almost nothing. And here is the brutal truth that almost nobody knows. The executives who signed those deals genuinely believed they were getting a good price. They had no idea what those characters would become worth. None. The rebuild 2000. Marvel survives bankruptcy, just barely. A new leadership team comes in. The company is a shell of what it was, but it still has some characters left. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, characters nobody in Hollywood even wanted at the time. Pattern interrupt. Iron Man was turned down by every major studio. Universal passed. Warner Bros. Passed. Even after the bankruptcy, nobody believed a B-list character in a metal suit could carry a film. Nobody, except one man. Kevin Feige had been working in Hollywood for years, quietly studying every superhero film that succeeded and every one that failed. He had a vision that the industry called insane: make the heroes feel like they exist in a shared, connected world. Build the universe film by film, the way comic book writers had been doing for decades on paper. Marvel's new CEO, Avi Arad, gave him a chance. And in 2005, Marvel does something that shocks Wall Street. They take out a $525 million loan, using their own character rights as collateral to fund their own studio. No partner, no safety net. If the first film fails, Marvel loses everything. Again, the gamble, Iron Man, released in 2008, $585 million at the global box office. Critics loved it. Audiences went back to see it twice, 3 times. And in the final scene, a moment that no Marvel fan will ever forget, Nick Fury walks into Tony Stark's living room and says, "I'd like to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative." The crowd didn't just cheer. They understood. This was not just one movie. This was the beginning of something the world had never seen before. The comeback in the deal: Iron Man leads to the Incredible Hulk, then Thor, then Captain America, each film carefully building toward one target, the Avengers. Released in 2012, it becomes one of the highest-grossing films in cinema history at that time, crossing $1.5 billion worldwide. Hollywood is in complete shock. A studio that was bankrupt 16 years earlier had just created the biggest movie event of the decade. Disney is watching all of this very carefully. And here is the question that still divides people today: was Marvel selling to Disney a triumph or a surrender? Because on one hand, they got $4 billion. On the other hand, they handed over creative control of everything they had just rebuilt from nothing. What do you think? Was it the right call? Tell me in the comments. Seriously, the debate there is always incredible. In 2009, Disney CEO Bob Iger calls Marvel's chairman Ike Perlmutter. The conversation is simple: how much for everything? The answer: $4.24 billion in cash and stock. At the time, many analysts called it too expensive, overpaid, a risk. Today, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has generated over $29 billion in global box office revenue. That $4 billion investment has returned more than 7 times its value, and counting. Pattern interrupt, but here is the part of this story that almost nobody tells you. When Marvel sold to Disney, they still did not own Spider-Man. Sony still had the rights. And the one character most associated with Marvel, the one on every child's school bag, the one in every theme park, was still legally off limits. So what did Marvel do? They negotiated one of the most creative rights deals in Hollywood history, bringing Spider-Man back into the MCU through a shared licensing agreement. They could not buy him back, so they borrowed him. And it worked. The Reckoning, April 2019. Avengers: Endgame arrives in cinemas. Within 11 days, it crosses $2 billion worldwide. It ends its run with $2.79 billion, making it the highest-grossing film in history at the time. The same company that could not pay its electric bill in 1996 had just made the most successful movie ever made. The characters they sold for millions, they had replaced them, rebuilt around them, and made even the ones they kept worth billions. From Bankruptcy to the biggest entertainment empire on Earth. In 23 years, what this really means. The Marvel story is not just about superheroes. It is about what happens when a company finally understands what it actually has. For decades, Marvel's leaders saw their characters as products, things to license, sell, and squeeze for quick cash. Kevin Feige saw something completely different. He saw a universe, a living, breathing, interconnected world that audiences would invest in emotionally, not just watch once and forget. The lesson is not that Marvel got lucky. It is that the moment they stopped undervaluing their own assets, the moment they bet on themselves, everything changed. Here is my final question for you, and I want a real answer. Which company do you think made the bigger mistake? Marvel for selling Spider-Man for $7 million, or Sony for eventually agreeing to share him back? Both decisions shaped the MCU, but only one of them looks catastrophically wrong in hindsight. Tell me which one in the comments. Marvel sold Spider-Man for $7 million and almost lost everything. But the company that bought those rights from Marvel, the one that quietly turned a desperate licensing deal into a billion-dollar franchise, their story is somehow even more shocking than this one. Sony Pictures, a company that was hacked, humiliated, and nearly destroyed, yet still holds some of the most powerful character rights in Hollywood. How they got there, and what almost took them down, is the next video on this channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you learned something today that genuinely surprised you, share this video with one person who would never expect the Marvel story to be a business story. Because now you know it always was.